All right, how is everybody doing today?
Great.
Good.
Doing good.
I appreciate you guys taking a leadership role, being panelists, and using this opportunity to, speak your truth, speak how you feel, things you experienced, how you would like, things to change, and just pretty much, using a healthy dialogue. And so, this is brought to you by the City of Toledo Human Relations Commission. And, we have, 4 different committees within that commission, which is community and neighborhoods, social justice, stop the violence, and youth empowerment and engagement. You can find us, toledo.ohio.gov/services/human relations commission, and on facebook.com, Toledo HRC. The Youth Empowerment and Engagement Committee are the members is Brendan Reynolds, who's a co-chair, Jose Rosales, co-chair, Kendall Harvey Sr., and myself is the 3rd co-chair. We have Carla Balcom. I like to call him Q because I butcher his name a lot. I'm going to say Q Burks, Miss Danny Stinson. We have Nicole, and we have Jason Villanueva and Aaron Baker, who was an HRC Executive Liaison. Our mission is the Youth Empowerment and Engagement will work to engage City of Toledo youth in positive activities, job training, and education. Next week, Friday, June 26th, headed by Mr. Dave Ross, we have community brainstorming on stopping the violence. The date is Friday, June 26th at 6 p.m. And you can find it at HRC Facebook. I'm gonna turn over to the team as far as the panelists and moderators, so they can move forward and get this thing kicking off. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Pettaway. I am a teacher with Toledo Public Schools. I teach entrepreneurship. I'm a father. I'm the head coach of the Whitmer High School girls basketball team. And I consider myself to be someone who is involved in this community on a multitude of levels. But one of the things I'm most passionate about is working with youth. So when I was asked to do this, it was not something that I even hesitated to be a part of, especially being able to be a part with Christopher McBrayer. And I'll let him introduce himself. But one of the things I'm most passionate about is, that is somebody who I also know to be wildly passionate about progress, about Black people, about the Black community, and more importantly, about Black youth.
How's everybody doing? My name is Chris McBrayer, as Tim said. I wear a number of hats. I'm the chaplain at the Toledo Prison. I'm the head football coach at Scott High School. I'm also a father. I'm highly involved in the community in various different ways. And again, it's all about, for me, the growth and the maturity of the Black life. So we can start with Olivia, and Olivia, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll go around.
My name is Olivia Johnson. I just recently graduated from St. Ursula. In the fall, I'm going to attend Xavier University, and I'm majoring in psychology.
Hi,
Latoria. Oh, there we go.
Hi, my name is Cassidy McClellan. I'm a recent Toledo Early College graduate, and I will be attending Alabama A&M in the fall for elementary education and later going into educational policy and law.
Hi, my name is Akeem McNeal. I'm about to be an incoming senior at Scott. I play football and basketball.
Okay, my name's Latoria. I recently just graduated from St. Ursula, and I'll be attending UT, and I'm going for respiratory therapy.
Hi, my name is Philip Hackett Jr. Is it on me?
Yeah, go.
I don't know. I'll go. My name is Hackett Jr. I recently just graduated from Start High School. My plans for the fall are to go to Georgia Military College. It's a junior college down in Milledgeville. I plan on attending there to regain my eligibility to play football. And I'm studying business administration.
Okay. Start the video and speak.
My name is I'm a senior at Scott High School and participate in basketball.
And real quick, just for the panelists, I imagine you guys are all on your phone, but if you look at the bottom right corner, you'll see the more button. And just so we're not speaking over each other, if you want to, when you click more, you'll see the button that says raise hand. That way we'll kind of know who wants to speak if you have something to say, just so you guys aren't talking over each other. That's just a little bit of housekeeping. But first things first, as Chris and I have kind of been working with youth, I think one of the first things I'd like to know, and I think people would like to know, is how does it feel to be 16, 17, 18 years old and Black right now, as a young Black person with the internet at your fingertips and a wealth, or not even a wealth, a lot of things being thrown at you every day. How does that feel? How do you navigate that? What are some of the things you see? And are you being talked to actively by the people around you, the world around you, on how to navigate that space?
Well, one thing I've noticed, especially now, I've learned like a lot more, like things that I never was taught in school or things that I didn't know prior to, what's going on now. And I think that's been really important because I've been able to have conversations with my family about, their perspective on what's going on. And I think that's helped me a lot, being young, so.
I personally think that in this climate, you have to educate yourself because things like this and learning how to navigate in the world as being a Black woman or a Black man, I feel like you don't learn that in school. So I feel like you have to educate yourself and just teach yourself how to do it. I mean, like there's people in the community around you, but I feel like as far as school, we're not necessarily learning how to do that.
Bill?
Honestly, It's on me. Honestly, like she was just saying, we have to really teach ourselves, like going to school, just simple things is like Black history. We don't really learn that. Even when it's that time of the year, we don't learn anything on how to act when we're out in the real world, just being Black, especially young. So.
Akeem?
I feel like they give us the tools to get a job or to learn more stuff in school, but once we out of school and we're on our own, they don't tell us the responsibilities of how harsh it is, of what we're going to see on the internet, of people racial profiling us, or people just saying that we can't do certain things just because of our skin color.
I was saying, well, the same thing Phil was saying, like when Black History Month comes around, we learn like the cliche like Martin Luther King and like we don't even learn about Malcolm X, but we learn about Martin Luther King. And I feel like that's not the only thing that's important in Black history, because we have so much more like we can learn, like just off of like social media and Twitter. I personally learned so much about like the Black like history and everything off of like social media. It's not in school, and I feel like the school systems need to, like, I don't know, get more.
You can say it, do better.
Yeah, do better in that part. Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
So when you guys think about how you guys said you kind of was under privileged or underserved from the school standpoint, how do you think now, as you know better, that you will try to do better in this regard? So how do you make that transformation now that you know that you're not getting what you're supposed to have gotten in school, to now knowing what you need to get?
I think it's influenced like what I want to do in college. So now that I know more about what's going on, it pushes me to further educate myself and then further educate people that I'm going to come in contact with, whether it's in my major or whatever occupation I choose to go into.
Akeem?
I say try to find mentors. Like I use you as a mentor, or people that I look up to that I see doing what I would like to do further in the future, like be more proactive in stuff, involved in stuff like this. So when I get to that point or at this moment in my life, I know, well, this is the right thing to do. This is not the right thing to do, because I see other people that I look up to or that I want to be like doing the same thing. So I know that I'm going down the right path.
Cassie?
Yeah, I think it's our job to mentor other people and also look for mentors so that we have a community that's ready to face being Black in America.
Tori?
Yeah, basically what they're saying, just mentor people, because I feel like we're the generation, like right now, that's like taking the action. So I feel like it's our job to just educate other people around us, the people who are interested in learning about what's going on, and even the people who are ignorant about what's going on. But I feel like it's still like our job to like spread this information because we have it, so we have to spread it.
Phil?
Honestly, to piggyback off what everybody else is saying, take that and take what we know now, try to reach out and spread that to other people that might not know, and anybody that we come across, become a mentor to ourselves first before we try to go to somebody else, and it might give them the wrong information, and then that just misleads.
Tim, before you speak, we have a question from Facebook. And someone said, how do you plan to handle difficult situations that may arise in the future regarding lives? The question again is, how do you plan to handle difficult situations that may arise in the future regarding Black lives?
Well, I think now that we're being pushed to be more outspoken and speak up. So I think, that's going to be really important. Just using your voice, realizing you have a voice and that things won't change until you use it. So I think that's just going to be important, for the future.
I think that this generation can and needs to step up, and I think that we need to elect more Black politicians in office so that they can fight on our behalf.
I was gonna say, I feel like when we have the opportunity like this to speak, that we actually, like everyone on here, actually take the opportunity and actually say what you feel like needs to be said, because if you're not gonna say anything, you can't even get mad or upset about what's going on if you're not gonna put your inputs and try to change or help out the fact.
Off of what Cassie was saying, the Black politicians, I feel like it needs to start local first, and then it needs to go, we still need Black politicians everywhere, but like local, just seeing it local can help a lot too, so we have people fighting for us. But that's my input on that part.
And when you elect people for local office, then they could run for higher offices, and that they're fighting on your behalf, so that they'll do what they're supposed to do.
So I have a question in regards to that. Do you feel heard? And not necessarily in this climate right now, but just like in your everyday lives as young Black people, do you feel that my generation and the generation ahead of me, so, your grandparents, our grandparents, do you feel like we're listening? Do you feel like the things you're saying because the way you're living in America is different from even the way I lived in America at your age. The world has changed tremendously. But do you feel like we're listening? Do you feel like your voices, the things that you're asking for, the things that you want to see, do you feel like we're listening and implementing them, or does it sometimes feel like we are just kind of silencing you and doing whatever it is we want to do?
I think that people are listening, but we're not being heard. Nothing is changing. So I feel like you need to listen, and you need to help us change things and help change policies and things like that. Because I mean, like, we can have protests and everything, but I mean, like, we need to see change, and we need to see policies and things just implemented on our behalf, so we will like stop getting hurt. Because like we're having protests and stuff, but like we'll have protests like what we've seen in the past. We'll have it for a week and then it'll go back to being regular. So I think that we need to have protests, and we need to see change, and we need like our parents and grandparents to help us do that as well.
I feel. I was gonna say I agree with her, like, cause everything that's going on with the George Floyd and everything, it's going on at a time because it was recorded. But how the news been saying this stuff's been happening, everybody's been knowing about this, but because it was recorded, I feel like it's taking a big moment on the world at the moment. But in 2 months or 3 months from now, is everybody still gonna be fighting the same way that they're fighting now to have the same purpose? Because I feel like after this is all said and done, after they got everything is over with, I feel like everybody's just gonna go back to their normal lives until something else happen like this again and it's recorded.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, you guys speak to that. Like, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like that everybody that then did something.
Someone else?
One of my questions relating to that was like, in school, did you guys ever feel like, you know, you were heard, or that you had a voice, or, you know, your teachers and peers paid attention, you know, to anything that was going on? Do you think that, you know, you had a voice during that time? And do you think that, you know, they were aware of the things that you go through as a Black male or female in school?
I think Chris and I probably come from two different perspectives on that. So the high school I went to was predominantly white, and I was living in poverty at the time, right? So I'm living in a Black environment, but then I'm having to go to school in a very white environment. So you didn't, and this was 20 years ago, but you didn't feel like you had the space to be Black, right? Like you kind of had to, you know, you wake up in the morning, you're Black, and then on your way to school, you kind of have to code switch, right? You have to become a different person, you know, to kind of survive the environment. I know two of you guys went to St. Ursula, so you understand exactly what I'm saying, but you have to kind of like, not turn it, you don't want to erase your Blackness, but you definitely dim it down quite a bit, because you don't even want, you know, you don't want all that. And one of the things I'm seeing now though, and I'm actually really impressed with it, is everybody's really comfortable saying, nah, we ain't good with that, right? Like, no, this ain't gonna work no more. Like, and it's something that has come from this kind of moment in time. But for me, no, there was not a lot of spaces I was comfortable being Black at 17, 18 years old. I learned that at 25.
And like you said, for me, it was the complete opposite. Like, I went to Scott, so being Black was just something that you embraced. It was the HBCU of Toledo, basically, and you look forward to going to Scott and being a part of the culture and all those fun things that actually people who don't get a chance to experience in high school like to go to HBCU. One of you are going to like Alabama or somewhere, I think I missed it, but you're going to the HBCU and you're going to experience that. So for me, I was taught, because I was so much in the thick of it, I had to be taught how to code switch to get out of it now as I got older. So I had to kind of scale it back a little bit. But now at a point where I'm at right now, you know, I just don't care because the Blackness has to be heard. No longer do I want to sit at tables where I have to code switch. No longer will I, you know, think about code switching at all. So like, you're going to like me for my Blackness and you're going to accept me for my Blackness. And I will sleep better at night because of my Blackness, because I know that. So that's for me, Olivia. That's a great question.
And I would like to add to that. If I'm imparting anything on this conversation, I want you to know that right now. Don't dim your Blackness at all, ever, for the rest of your life. All of y'all are either seniors in high school or y'all about to graduate, and the world will kind of lend its hand to you kind of dimming your Blackness a little bit, but it won't change anything. So you might as well live and be proud of being Black, live and be proud of everything that you have went through up until this point and going forward. Because, and Chris said it best, you'll sleep better at night, knowing that you ain't got to wake up another day and be kind of worried about if you're saying the right things, if your hair is the right way, if your makeup is good, and how they looking at you, what they calling you, you know, all that kind of, it's all irrelevant, because if the people who think that way aren't going to change independent of what you do. But we do have another question, and it was in regards to something Cassidy said about electing people. And the question is, it's on Facebook, it says, do you feel that the people we elect have an obligation to fight for Black people? You know, so we'll use Barack Obama as a reference point, right? Do we feel like, you know, we have council people in Toledo who are Black. We have politicians across the state who are Black. The president was once Black. Do we feel that those people that we elect are obligated to fight for Black causes and Black people?
Phil, can we start with you?
Yes. I honestly feel like with the whole Barack Obama situation, because we have someone of color in a higher office, I feel it's not an obligation, but if it would feel better to us as the Black community that he could stand out and do certain things just like a mayor or anybody else would. Because at one point when he was the president, he's not just the president of Black America, he's the president of America altogether. But still, him doing something for the Black community while we're at a lower position, that would help a lot.
Olivia?
I would agree. I don't think it should be looked at as an obligation. I feel like, you know, being a Black man or woman and, you know, you have some type of power, you should want to fight, you know, for your people. Like, you know, you see what they're going through, you're not blind to it. So I feel like that should just be in you to want to, you know, raise awareness and make a change.
Toria?
I wouldn't say it's an obligation, but if you're elected to serve people, Black people are people. So I feel like, yes, we should like put what we have going on, like they should be able to like listen to us and do stuff to fix that. So I'm not saying it is an obligation, but like kind of, because you're supposed to serve people. So I feel like, yeah, we are.
Cassie?
I feel like if you see the, if you see the injustices, you need to do something about it, especially if you're a Black person and you know how it feels. I mean, like, because you can be someone in office and get pulled over by the police. They might not know what you look like, and they're going to treat you the exact same way. So I feel like if you're in the office and you see the injustices, you need to help out because that's your job. And I feel like as a Black person, if you know how it feels, you shouldn't, if you know how it feels, I mean, like, you should want to help out.
So what about injustices? I mean, let's talk about injustices for a second, if we can. What's your take on the injustices that you witness? And I don't want to guide the question or anything. I just want you to speak kind of from what you see. What are injustices and things of that nature? So go ahead.
I think it's not just police brutality. I think there are injustices in education.
What about injustice?
And I think in the education system, I mean, like, standardized test scores are racially biased towards white students. So when we take the ACT and SAT, they're not made for us to get a 30, 32. So I feel like there are plenty of injustices that policies can be set and point to be like, hey, this isn't fair. Or if you're going to have standardized tests, have someone that's diverse or who studied that come in and have questions that everyone can answer, not just racially biased towards one person. So I feel like there are plenty injustices and we need like a lot of people in office to just fight on our behalf, because racism isn't just like, you know, if we go in the store and someone racially profiles us, it's a systematic thing that's in the whole system that we need to fix, and we need to start dismantling just from the bottom and work our way up.
I would agree. I think, so like even after slavery, like, you know, I think Blacks were criminalized, you know, from the start. So, you know, like the war on crime, the war on drugs, you know, when people get out of prison, the system is set up so, you know, you can't progress. It's going to be hard to get a job, hard to, you know, education, get a house. It's just like it was set up against us. And I think that's a big injustice that people don't, you know, really talk, you know, because police brutality is very prominent, but I think you know, Blacks being criminalized, and then the effects of that is really, really big too.
Markiah, if you can chime in. Oh, she checked out. Akeem, what do you think?
I feel like even though with everything that's going on, how they were saying about school, like if you have a learning disorder or they feel like you learn a bit slower, they treat you different or they act towards you different just because it's something that you didn't ask for it to be wrong with you. They treat you different or they act towards you different, and then you get made fun of in school or outside of school, and then kids wonder why they don't want to go to school or why kids were referred to selling drugs or something, because when they try to do it the right way or in school way, the teachers either blow them off when they try to tell them something or ask for help. The teachers say, oh, you'll be okay, and just send them back to their seat or just tell them to go talk to a counselor that doesn't understand where they're coming from.
That's pretty deep. Speaking from an injustice standpoint, that's pretty deep. Toria.
I think there is injustices in healthcare too, about like when Black women have children. You know, like it's Black women can die. Rather than white women, Black women are at better or they're at the health risk for it. And I just feel like that's just injustice in healthcare, and it's just set up against us in like literally everything. And when like Black people get sick or something, it's like not like push it to the side, but it's like, oh, let's see if we can help someone else. I just feel like it's a lot in healthcare. Like that's a main thing.
Hakeem, someone asked a question on Facebook, and you guys can feel free to answer as well. Says, so Hakeem, what other support would you like to see in the schools? Like, so as far as, go ahead.
Okay, so at me, I'm 18 years old. I have a dyslexic problem. I see certain letters backwards, and I have a reading problem because of it. So with the fact that I've been trying to get tested, and I finally got tested. Every time I had a problem or something, they'd be like, oh, you just don't want to read, or this is that. And every time I would go to a counselor to talk about it, they would say that it was just something wrong with me and I just was being rebellion, but it was actually something wrong with me. But when I went to an African-American counselor that had the same thing, they knew how to help me better so I can learn how to read a lot at my level that I was supposed to be able to read at, because they went through the same thing in high school. They was able to help me out because the other counselor I was going to, they didn't go through it, so they didn't know how to address the situations where it was better for me to be, how do I say it? It was better for me that in schools to place me in the right classes and put me with the right people so I can get the right amount of help that I needed to be successful in school and out of school.
Absolutely, to be accommodated. They knew how to accommodate you better.
Yes, they knew how to help find certain people to help me with what I really needed. Instead of just, oh, he's needed this, he's needed to be put in behavior class because he has a behavior problem because he don't want to listen to authority. It wasn't that I didn't want to listen to authority. They just didn't understand what I was trying to tell them or where I was coming from because they didn't go through that.
That's deep. And people are on Facebook right now saying, you're brave. Thank you for being transparent. And that's the type of stuff that people need to hear, because that is an injustice. When I think Cassie or Olivia spoke about, in the school system. So those are the type of things that's really underhand, that slide, that a lot of people, if you don't speak about it, a lot of people won't hear about it, especially people that's like our parents and grandparents who've been out of school 30, 40 years, where, special needs has been heightened, or the accommodations are, much more aware. Tim, do you have something?
Oh, can I say something?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that because, like me too, I have auditory processing. So I feel like in the schools, we need to train our teachers to actually listen to Black students because, I mean, like he said, like when Black students often have learning disabilities or issues, they want to throw them in behavioral classes and things like that. So I think that we need to have trainings for teachers to listen and get the help that they need for their students. And I feel like Tori was saying with the mental health and how Black women die at higher rates than white women, it's the same thing that people are not listening to us. And 78% of like public school teachers are white. So if you're going to be a white person in a space teaching Black students, you need to be culturally like diverse and like listen to your students about what they're saying. And if you're a Black parent and your teacher is, and your student, your child is telling you like they think the teacher's treating them funny or something, like you need to listen to them, because like teachers actually do be treating Black students badly in schools. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Markiah wants to say something. Markiah wants to say something, but then Phil, you can go right after that.
I feel like our counselors at school, like they're not counselors to talk to. They're more, let's focus on your grades. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like there's no help there. And I feel like we need more. And like, if you go to them, they really don't do anything. So it's like pointless of having them.
So are you suggesting that counselors are more so like schedulers much rather than actually the word counselors? Is that what y'all saying? Because I seen you shake your head too, Olivia.
Yeah, like they just, let's get your grades. Like when you go talk to them, they be like, well, I don't know how to handle the situation, or like we will have to go deeper. And then like with our school, you know, they added the health clinic, so we have counselors in there. And I just feel like the counselors in there are way better than the counselors that we have that are just for the school.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that, because I feel like especially my experience with my high school counselor, I feel like she wasn't someone you could go talk to. She barely could even schedule you. So I feel like counselors actually need to be trained to students can come talk to them and listen, and they need to be able to schedule you as well. So kind of like the same thing, you need to listen to the Black voices.
I also feel like, well, in my situation, there wasn't anyone to relate to counselor-wise at my school. So it's like, maybe if I tell them something, they're not going to be able to relate to it, or they're not going to be able to understand where I'm coming from. So it's like, why would I talk to them about it? So I strictly went there for classes, and I feel like that should be changed, because it's such a small group of African Americans in the school that I went to, and there's no one for them to relate to. So I just feel like if we had more inclusion of African Americans and like people to represent us, I feel like it'll be easier to share your feelings and what you feel like, what's going on.
Yeah.
Just to go back, like more so injustices. Honestly, when I look at it, slavery never was really abolished. Like when Black men go to prison, honestly, I feel like slavery, it went from slavery to prison, because honestly, there are more African American males incarcerated than any other race. And another thing with the schools, and this might sound weird to anybody, but even like the little thing, like some teachers, you can see that they group Black students, especially Black males, all into one. Just say, for instance, I'm a light African American male, and then there's another dark skinned guy, and because it's only might be the only 2 Black males in that class, sometimes even just confusing us with one another when we look nothing alike, but you would never see them confuse another white male with another white male in that class ever. So even something as little as that, I feel like that's not right at all.
And I just want to take a small little commercial break and just let the viewers know, you're hearing it right from I guess the mouth of babes, for lack of better words. You're hearing it from the youth. So one of our questions were at the beginning was to do they feel like they're being heard? Are they being heard? And a lot of times they're not being heard. So one, we just want to give a shout out to the HRC of Toledo to even give this platform so that they can be able to be heard. So I'm asking all of you who are listening, please take a opportunity to hear out these individuals, not just because it's on Facebook, but more so hear their concerns, hear their cries, so that we can actually take a stand for them.
I have a question for you all. Where do you feel safe to be Black? And I don't mean safe as in the terms of danger. I mean safe in terms of being authentic, right? Where are the spaces that you feel you don't have to code switch? You can dress how you want, talk how you want, act how you want. And where do you find that safety net at? Where are the places you go? Even outside of social media, so like physical places, are there places that exist where you feel that your Blackness is appropriate?
If I may, I feel like for me, as I was growing up, the only place that I felt safe at was basketball practice or football practice, because every time I didn't had a Caucasian coach or something, they made sure I done had the best gear, the best time on the court, off or on the field. They done made sure I had the best time or anything that I needed sports wise. They made sure, but if I came to them outside of sports, like, coach, I just need to talk to you, it's like they didn't want to hear it. But when it came to sports, because they knew that that's what I was good at, or that's because they knew that's what the African-American race is known for, we're known for having fast kids or having strong kids that's good at sports. He made sure I had everything sports-wise that I needed. But when I just needed to talk to him about something that was going on from man to man, or something that a man should know that I needed insight on, it's like he blew me off. But when it came to sports, he'll buy me stuff, he'll give me whatever I want. But when it came to just me talking to him on the outside of sports level, it's like he blew me off. He was like, oh, I have to go contain to my kids, or I have to do this or do that.
Well, I'm glad you have a new coach now, so let's just clear that up real quick. Let's just not try to connect the dots here, you know what I'm saying? You got a new coach, baby boy, you know what I'm saying? So, but anybody else?
For me, I feel like I've always felt comfortable around my friends, like Tori. You know, I feel like I can be my true self with, or at home. But public spaces, I don't think I've ever, been somewhere where I felt like, I could be my true self and express, my Blackness. Even at work, I just, I've never felt like I've had the opportunity to do that, or, felt comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, I'm just most comfortable at home. Like, I feel like home is my safe space, or just honestly anywhere. Like, I go with my mom, because like my mom, she just doesn't care, and her confidence is like 1,000. Like, she could just go like a sweatpants and like some shorts, and she still think like she's the stuff. So I feel like when I'm with her, like I feel like more confident and stuff, or just when I'm at home. But I feel like anywhere else, like at school or anything, I feel like mainly at my school, it kind of had like the vibe, like it's cool to be Black, but you don't want to be Black when it's really time to be Black. So I feel like I kind of was like a woke Black person, just kind of like in a air space. So I feel like I'm more comfortable at home, or just like surrounded by people who actually know Black history, the injustices in the Black community. So I feel more comfortable like around people like that. That's why I am going to a historically Black college.
I felt more comfortable like with sports. I feel comfortable at school and like church sometimes. It depends. It's like you don't have to code switch a lot at my school, but there is times when you have to, like, they want you to do something for them and speak out. So yeah, that's it.
I feel comfortable around my friends and family. And I think it's starting to get there for me to feel comfortable, like, being out, because I can't hide that I'm Black. So I feel like I shouldn't have to hide how I usually act. But at school, like, I was, like, freshman and sophomore year, I was totally different from how I was junior and senior year. I felt like I had to turn it off when I got there. And it's like, you can't be too Black for them, but they like you because you're Black. But you just have, like, a certain a level of how Black you can be around certain people. So I feel like my junior year, I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm about to act how I do because this is how I act, and they act how they want to act, so I shouldn't have to turn it off for anyone. So I think I'm getting there to be able to act how I want to, like, just out.
Two things. One, someone said it in the comments, and I agree 100%. It is absolutely your generation of youth that has given my generation permission to be outwardly Black, which is going to lead to another question, but I did want to acknowledge that in the comments, but also acknowledge that even for myself and the people around me. And I'll tell my story before I ask the question, but everything I knew about being Black was making white people comfortable. Right? Like it was just kind of what I knew growing up, right? Like it was never explicitly stated, but it was very much the ideology, right? Like, cut your hair this way, make sure you don't do this, make sure you don't do that, you know, wear these type of clothes, pull your pants up, you know, wear the shirt, wear the shoes, you know, all those things are all about making sure white people didn't see me as a threat, and making sure that when I wanted to get into rooms and wanted to sit at tables, that I was accepted. It wasn't until I was 26 that I even thought about the idea of getting a tattoo below my elbow, because my parents had always told me, like, if you're gonna get them, make sure you get them where people can't see them. And now, you know, I'm a little more free and candid with the way I talk and the way I present myself. But the question becomes, where did you learn how to code switch? Where did you learn how to kind of hide your Blackness? You know, where did those lessons come from? You know, because obviously, again, we live in two different worlds, but where did you learn that? Was that something you learned on the internet? Was that something your parents instilled in you? Did us as a community kind of teach you that?
What helped me through as I was growing up, I was in Mo with Dr. Durant and Dr. Smith. So they showed me, like, well, if you want to get to this point of view, they showed me the perspective of a Caucasian man doing it and then a Black man doing it. When the Black man did it his way, he was comfortable in his natural state. When he wore his tattoos and everything, he got turned down from the jobs. But when he came back the following week with a suit on, they couldn't see his tattoos and he was dressed up, they gave him the job. They said, this is how they're going to look at you. So I'm like, okay, so I know if I want to get somewhere, I have to wear these certain clothes, talk a certain way, wear my hair a certain way, and dress and act a certain way. But when I wear my normal, what I would wear on a Saturday or a day that I don't have school, or when I'm out of school, if I wear that and try to go get a job, they're going to look at me wrong or squint their face up when I'm not around, or when I'm not around, they're going to talk behind my back. They might give me the job, but they really don't want me working there. They're going to have me doing all the things that they don't want to do.
Anybody else?
I would agree. I think some of it is taught, just like, you know, when you're at home, your parents kind of you for the, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
They prepare you, you know, for the real world. They tell you, you know, how to dress, how to act. And then I think for me, you know, going to the school that I did, I started there in like 6th grade. You know, I just graduated. So it was a predominantly white school. There was only a few of us. So being around, you know, almost all white people, you're just kind of, that's ingrained in you to, you know when to code switch or dim yourself down, you know. So I feel like it did affect me a lot, but now I feel like I have a voice and I'm not scared to speak up.
I felt like I had just kind of like learned to code switch because I was put in predominantly white schools at a very young age, like from 2nd grade to like 6th grade. And then I had a break during 7th and 8th grade, and then it kind of started back up again in high school. So I feel like kind of starting at a young age, I just kind of knew, like when I would get out the car, I'd be like, hey, how are you doing? Or, you know, like not like, you know, I would just kind of know it was a thing. And then my mom had kind of asked me, like, how do you know, like, how to code switch? But I was just so young, and I knew in the 2nd grade that I was the only Black girl in the class and that they viewed me a little bit differently. And I felt like I had a little bit of a break in 7th and 8th grade. But then when I got back to high school, and it was kind of like the environment that I mentioned before, being Black when it's cool, but not being like the woke Black that you know about Black history and everything, I felt like it was a little bit harder to handle. And it was, since I had a break, I kind of like felt free, like I was being myself. And when I got to high school again, it had kind of like shooken me up because I realized that I kind of had to code switch again. So I felt like I had just kind of known how to do that, but then I had to prepare myself again in high school.
That's deep. Anybody else?
Honestly, it really starts at home more so than anything, but as you go through life and you have those experiences, you kind of know for yourself, like, okay, if I'm going here, I need to act this way or talk this way. You know, it's just depending on the environment that you're in, you kind of become a product to it, like knowing you have to code switch or just like knowing how you have to present yourself.
So if you guys can, I mean, we talked about the code switch and everything. If you guys can tell the people that's listening to you right now, because you have their attention, if you can tell them one thing on what you would want them to know, or so that you can progress in life about your Blackness, what would it be? It's just that one thing, like if somebody just had this magic genie or this genie in a bottle and this magic wand, and that thing to make you feel best as a Black, soon-to-be Black professional, what would it be? What would it be? What would be that one thing?
For me, it would be for me to be myself, because I feel like when you change who you are, you change it for everybody else, and you're not happy. If you're not happy, you're just gonna do everything that everybody wants you to do. I feel like me being me now, like me knowing that I can be myself now, I'm a lot happier. I feel like I have more of the chance to get to where I want to get in life, because I know what I want to do now, and everybody in school or around me is not telling me, well, you should try to go for this profession, or you should do this because this is what the Caucasian man or woman wants you to do. I have a choice to do what I want to do now, because I'm happy of who I am.
I like that.
Anybody else?
I honestly would say, don't judge me by just how I look. Like if I'm going somewhere and I'm out in a public place, like if I was to go out hollering and I might be in my jeans or my Jordans and a t-shirt or something like that, or you see me with a short sleeve and you see my tattoos, don't judge me just off of the way I look, because when it comes to it and I can actually have a conversation with some of these people at like corporations, I can actually sit here and elaborate and go back and forth and talk with the language with you. So don't judge me just by how I work.
And I kind of wanted to go off of that. So when I was younger, I had friends. At the time I wasn't aware of it, but she might not have been racist, but her dad was. He believed, all those things. So he would be like, oh, we like Olivia, but I don't want you to have a Black boyfriend. I don't want to see you around, those people. And it's just like funny. I feel like they don't take the time to get to know, you like me because you know me, but any Black person you might see on the street, you don't, give them the time of day. You don't have that conversation with them. You don't get to know them. So you think, because of where I come from or things that I have, that, oh, you like me, but, that's it. I just feel like that's something that they should think about.
You like me because you know me. Toria?
I was going to say, I was on orientation for college, and we were going around saying, like, what schools we went to, and I told them I went to St. Ursula, and one of my peers, she said, you don't look like you would go to St. Ursula. I don't feel like there's a certain look to go somewhere, but it took me aback, because I was like, oh, do I not, like, what do I look like I go then? Like, why should I be judged on how I look from somewhere that I went to school? Because I just feel like I could have looked at her and said she didn't go where she could have said that she went, but I didn't. So it was just like shocking, because it's like, okay, I don't look like I go to St. Ursula, but I'm educated. We're all educated enough to understand that. So I just feel like it was just weird, and I didn't really like it.
So it actually sparks a question in me of what are some of the instances, and I guess I'm asking for insight. What are some of the instances of racism that you guys are dealing with today, right, in present time? And I'm asking just because as people are listening, there are people from a lot of age levels watching you guys and listening to you guys right now. And it's more for perspective of, is racism a little different as far as how it's practiced? So if you guys wanted to share like the instances of racism, even if we're talking about in school, that you guys have kind of had to deal with your peers and how that kind of played out for you.
In school, I had a moment during, I believe, my freshman year where I had worn my Black Lives Matter t-shirt, and I walk in class, innocently just going about my day, and I automatically get kind of bashed, like, well, why do you have on a Black Lives Matter t-shirt? Why doesn't all lives matter? Just trying to pretty much diminish the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I'm feeling like I'm wearing something that I'm proud of. I'm supporting the movement right now because of everything going on in the world. So don't get mad at me for wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt because it doesn't say all lives matter. and then go on to say, well, if I wore a White Lives Matter t-shirt, you would feel away. Of course I would feel away, because there are not white people out here being innocently killed by police or on any other day by, like, just Black people are being innocently killed for no reason more than anybody else in the world. So don't do that. Like that really like hurt my feelings, and I got real defensive about that, because I'm trying to do something to at least, show that I care about what's going on in the world, and you automatically just come for me about it. And I didn't like that.
I think for me in my school, a lot of the like racism that I kind of experienced, I feel like, my school has Black administrators. My school had Black administrators, but a lot of the opportunities were given to white students, and it was like they just kind of like dismissed the Black students, and they were favoriting the white students and giving all these opportunities to the white students. And it was just kind of like the Black students and other minorities were kind of left to fend for themselves. And also saying something to relate to what the question was before, I was just going to say, like, America needs to prepare for Black people not wanting to make you feel comfortable. Like, I feel like our generation is not going to continue to code switch and make you feel comfortable. You need to be comfortable with who we are. And that's what you're going to have to do, because, we're not going anywhere. So I feel like America needs to prepare for being comfortable with who we are and stop feeling uncomfortable, because there's nothing to feel uncomfortable about. If you feel uncomfortable around Black people, that is your issue, and you need to figure that out. But I was just saying on the code switching thing, we're tired of code switching and we're not doing it anymore.
Cassie, quick plan. So we got a question from Facebook that kind of goes along to what you just said, Cassie. A guy who I know dearly, who's been about the Black plight, or just about helping Black individuals, is a white guy, and he says, and he does the great work at the Juvenile Justice Department, YTC, and all that. And he says, what is one thing that you would like to tell the white generation? And I think that's a great question for those white individuals who care to try to make sure this thing, that we become Black, like a Black Lives Matter, that we become a people that matter. So if you could tell that white generation, what is that one thing that you would tell them?
I would say we pay attention to, the comments, like the microaggressions. So, oh, your lips are so big, or you're pretty for a Black girl, or, the whole thing, conception about Black fathers, or, just things like that. I feel like you experience it a lot in school. So I feel like I want them to know, watch what you say. Like, we pay attention to, and that sticks with you. Like, it sticks with me. Like, and I heard those things when I was younger. So just pay attention. We hear what you're saying.
That's good.
I was gonna say that you don't have to fear us or be scared of us or feel like you have to act a certain way around us because of what you see in movies or on TV, or when you see or when you're listening to rap music, because everybody that you come in contact with that's African American does not act that way. They do not want to be around that group of people just because that's what you see on the internet or that's what your parents telling you that's how we act. Doesn't mean that's how we actually are. You should get to know us for actually who we are. Take the chance to actually see, is that who that person is.
Absolutely. We are not.
I would say that you should love Black people just as much as you love Black culture. That's all I have to say. Simply, just love us as much as you love our culture.
Amen.
Drop the mic. Toria?
I was just going to say, become more educated, because it's not a problem with asking questions. It's the way you ask them, and then like the slick comments that you say. So I just feel like just becoming more educated about Black culture, especially if you're around Black people. And I just feel like it's important to, expand your knowledge on Black culture.
I agree with what Tori was saying. Just kind of like educate yourselves, because we do need white allies to help us dismantle systematic racism. And kind of like what Olivia was saying, like we pay attention to what you're saying. I know like on TikTok and a lot of social media, like a lot of like white students around our age like think it's funny to say like the N-word or do like the George Floyd like kneeling on someone's neck thing. Like we really pay attention to that, and we're not gonna like let it continue happening. Like we're gonna keep saying something. So just educate yourselves and remember that like we're paying attention.
We have another question, and I guess it's still online with what's going on. So do you guys feel an obligation to educate white people? How do you balance helping folks understand your experience without totally burning out emotionally and feeling emotionally exhausted? So how do you feel like it's an obligation to teach white people, and how do you balance helping folks understand your experience without totally burning out and feeling emotionally exhausted?
I would say, because my experience, like I was that only Black kid in the 5th grade, and when they're talking about slavery, the teacher looks at me as if, you know, I'm supposed to teach the class. So I would say if you're a white person and you want to learn more about Black history, I would say you research it and you do the history. I mean, you do the research about our history and read about how we get treated every day. I mean, like you see it on social media, you need to research yourself and teach yourself, because I feel like we're tired of explaining it when it's been going on for 400 years. You see it, you know what's happening. So you can educate yourself. I feel like we shouldn't be obligated to tell you anything. If you want to know, you can go learn it.
Cassidy, how old are you?
I just turned 18.
Okay. Just check it. Like you guys are, I will say this, and I'm sorry to interject, but you guys are wildly impressive. You know, oftentimes I think people assume that your generation is all about the internet and you don't know anything and y'all just lazy and all y'all want to do is listen to music and be on social media. But it is obvious that you guys are using social media for more than just talking to each other, that you are paying attention to what is going on. Anybody else want to answer that question before we get to the next one?
I would just say, like, it's not so much trying to teach them. You know, they have the internet, they can, you know, look all that stuff up. But I feel like if you see them doing something or saying something, speak up and call them out rather than, you know, educating them, because they can do that on their own time.
And it's really, okay. Honestly, I feel like it's not really an obligation for me to have to tell you about something like she was saying. Like it shouldn't have to be an obligation for me to tell you on how to act or how to treat us or know what we've been through. You have the resources just like we do. Because when it comes to other situations that you might know about, you might grow up because you are white, you might grow up a certain way. So your parents might have certain knowledge. They can teach you that at home, but the certain things that you learn at home, we have to go out and find out ourselves because we don't have the same education. So honestly, we shouldn't have to tell you how to act or treat us.
I would just want to say, to go off of what he said, if they really feel like they want to be equal or treat us equal, they should do the same thing we do. Because as growing up, I didn't learn that much stuff about Black history in school. I had to listen to my mom tell me, or watch movies about it, or go on the internet and read up on it. So if they really say they want to actually treat Black people just how they treat their peers, they do the same thing we do. Because if I want to learn something about a Caucasian person, I'm going to go research it or find information or just ask anyone else that knows about it. So I won't have to keep asking them the same question, because after asking somebody the same question over and over, they get frustrated or they just stop talking about what they feel like is right because they get tired of answering the same questions over and over.
I feel like since we learn about white history in school, that means you can educate yourself, because if we have to learn about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, then you can go educate yourself and learn about what we've been through.
I just feel like we're not obligated because we're not a walking African-American textbook. So I just feel like if you're interested in learning about what we have to go through, you need to look it up. And I also feel like they're more like over apologizing about what happened. I feel like you can be you and we can be us, and there's no reason for you to apologize and all this other stuff. I just feel like you need to educate yourself because we don't know everything that's going on. We're learning like you're learning. And if you were that interested in learning about what's going on, you would look it up like we do.
We are not walking Black dictionaries. That is real. Like, you asking me, I don't know. Like, go. I'm about to read the same article you about to read. I like that.
So this is for the young ladies. Merkaya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you can start right here because I know you've been in and out due to technical difficulties. But they say this is for the young ladies. Do you feel like being a woman in the Black community affects how people think of you?
Yes. I feel like they got this idea from all these videos and stuff like, oh, we're doing all of this that they're doing, like dancing, doing all that extra stuff that they're doing in these rap videos. And they take us all and say, well, they're all in that category. They all do that. And that's not the case.
Toria?
I feel like there definitely is a stereotype of Black women. And I feel like I've been stereotyped before because I like my nails long, I like my hair long, I like eyelashes and all that other stuff. And they have this picture that we're just ghetto and we're just loud and, you know, like the memes, like the hot Cheeto girl in the morning, like stuff like that. And it's like, that's disrespectful. And I feel like not everyone's like that because you coming up to me, you don't know my background, I don't know your background. So I feel like you can't judge me because how I talk, how I look, and how I act. So I feel like we're definitely stereotype.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think it goes back to, you know, before and after slavery, like that image they painted of the Black man that, you know, we're aggressive, we're criminals, we're scary. Like, this isn't new. Like, they've had this image for a long time. And that's why, you know, it's harder for, you know, older white people to listen to us, and because that's just so ingrained in them. Like, that's what they think. You know, they think we're, you know, these loud, like obnoxious, scary, you know, criminals. That's all that they see.
I think that Black women are definitely stereotyped as like the angry Black woman, or like Tori said, like the ghetto Black woman. But I also feel like some things the Black community can do is like help dismantle colorism as well, because I feel like that is a big issue in the Black community, and I feel like that it's seen outside of the Black community. So white people think that they can do that too, and I feel like setting an example, I feel like we cannot continue to let that happen. So I feel like the angry Black woman is kind of like a stereotype, and I think that the Black community can do things to help colorism as well.
Hey, Cassie, I think they want you to stay in Toledo. Where are you going to school at?
Alabama A&M.
Yeah, I think they want you to stay in Toledo and run for Toledo City Council at large in 2021. So now you got some decisions to make, all right?
I could come back. I could come back.
But go ahead, Tim.
So who are the leaders to you guys, right? So when you think about Black leaders, whether you want to talk about it locally or on a national scale, outside of your homes, who are the people that you look to for answers, for guidance, for, you know, the direction that we're going in as a collective?
I would say I look towards Coach Chris, my pastor, just people that I know that then went through it, or that has talked to people on a higher level than me, so they know how to go about the problem or answer the question, enter it, not enter it. They could just answer it for the time being or just a moment. So if the problem reoccur in the future, that I would know how to resolve it, because I didn't talk to somebody that knows how to resolve the problem, not for just the moment, but for a periodic time.
I feel like for myself, I'm privileged to be in a community that I see a lot of educated Black women and educated Black men, from my mom to my extended uncles and aunts. But as far as people my age,
Wait, I want to add to your stance before you finish. not even people your age, just in general, right? So as you think of Black leader, who comes to mind, right? If you're going to find information and you want it to be, sourced correctly, and you're not even sourced correctly, but you know it's coming from someone who is about the cause, who do you all look to?
I would say just my community and just like people around me. I'm like I said, I was just privileged to be around a lot of educated Black men and women in my space. So I feel like any one of them I could personally go to and ask.
For me, I look to like Black influencers and like, people on Twitter and the Black men and women that are organizing the protests and events, because, those are things that we're watching and seeing or being a part of. I think I look to them a lot.
Basically what Olivia was saying, like Black Twitter and like the people that are locally that are putting everything together, because I don't like see other people that are like as passionate about that, like that I'm around besides them. And I feel like going on social media, that helps too. So.
Work.
Well, Coach Chris and Twitter, social media, pastors in the community, and people at school, like school leaders.
How about you, Phil?
Honestly, I would say you. Like, I've never had a conversation with you, or like I've known who you were for years, but I've never had a real conversation with you. But just seeing how you were leading a protest, you even had your son out there. I feel like that, to me, that was inspirational. Like, if I needed to, I could come to you or Mr. Pettaway if I needed to learn anything, or if I was like just as far as looking up to someone.
Absolutely. And I think it's great that you guys have the resource of Twitter and Black, like when we speak of Black Twitter, because there's so many people out doing so many great things that and you can get so much more information that actually take you well beyond just a one person's mind. So that's great that you guys are even doing the research and actually, learning for that type of information. So that's great. So somebody asked a question, and this may not be for you guys, but maybe you can answer it. Do you know any ways people could spread the Black Lives Movement? And let's be clear. For me, reading that question, not so much of. So there's two different things when you hear Black Lives Matter, right? You hear of an organization that we really sometimes don't know like who's behind that, and and what their angle is. But then we have the statement. And so for me, I'm asking this question from more of a statement standpoint. And it was funny that I had a white guy even ask me like, you mentioned Black Lives Matter and you have a Black Lives Matter shirt on. Who's the leader of that? And I'm like, sir, this is a statement. This is a way of life. Black Lives Matter is a way of life to me, not so much of an organization. So from this question, do you know any ways people could spread the Black Lives movement from a statement standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint?
I'll say. No, go ahead, Akeem.
Just give them more insight on our culture, because so they can understand like, okay, this is what they go through. So when they hear us say Black Lives Matter, they're not just hearing us say it because it's something that happened at the moment. They know like it really means something to us because of what we go through on an everyday basis of our life. It's not just something that we saying because of something happened to another Black man or another Black woman, but it's meaning behind it, it's feeling behind it because of the stuff that we go through on an everyday basis.
I feel like, honestly, it's like a battle cry. Like, honestly, living Black, and especially young as this goes on, we kind of live in fear. Like, just simply, you could be driving down the street and you see a cop car pass you, you're automatically looking at your rear view to see if they made a U-turn and they're about to pull you over or not. So I just feel like making it, as far as a statement, just let them know, like show them the difference between live life and how you can live life. Your privilege is different from mine.
Anybody else?
I honestly think that this generation is doing a good job of protesting and actually like getting the word out, and even like they can do the research. Black Lives Matter is a movement, but when you look up Black Lives Matter and the foundation and the website, it lists who all it support, and the website lists like literally everybody in the Black community who all it support, and it tells you like this is to help Black people in the Black community and just awareness and get our voices out so we won't have to, you know.
So I think in regards to the statement, because, you know, you have those people that are like, no, all lives matter. They're not going to understand why Black Lives Matter, you know, until they understand the history behind it. And I think it goes back to, you know, them educating themselves and then us sharing our stories so they can see, you know, why Black Lives Matter.
I feel like a lot of people are just hopping on and saying Black Lives Matter because it's what's popular right now, but it's always been around. And I just feel like they need more education on it. Like, if you're going to say it, you need to know why you're really saying. What's your reason behind saying what you're saying?
You want to go?
Oh, sure. I was gonna say I totally agree with that, because there have been like people hopping on the bandwagon like Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And I've seen like, cause like I've kind of been confused like seeing some of the people post it, because I'm like, they're posting Black Lives Matter, but then when it comes to that conversation in person, they don't want to say anything, or when it actually comes to talk about it, they don't want to say anything. So I feel like if you're gonna be an ally and say Black Lives Matter, you need to do the research and actually fight for our behalf, not just because it's cool right now.
So you want to see them do the work?
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say them practicing what they're preaching. And there are some white people that are exposing like their parents for being racist, and they're taking a stand against their parents and stuff like that. So I feel like that's important too. Like the people that aren't phony about, you know, posting the Black Lives Matter just because it's cool right now. I feel like some of them are getting like courage to stand up, and I feel like that's important too, because we, like Cassie said, we do need white allies in what's going on.
We have another question, and as we get to these last 15 minutes, I want to make sure that you all are centered in this conversation, and I want to make sure we leave some time for closing comments and concerns of yours. But one of the questions was, and it's a little different from what we talked about, it says, with the world being so heavy between white supremacy and the global pandemic, climate change, injustices, unemployment, uncertainty, where do you all find hope? Like, where are you looking to for hope that it's going to get better?
I think for me, it's, you know, so far Tori and I, we went to a sit-in, and I think, you know, seeing everyone come together and listening to people's stories and talk about what's going on, that always gives me hope.
Me, for myself, me listening to somebody's story that they went through a hard time with the police, or they just went through a hard time, period, and knowing that they came out of that bad time and didn't refer to doing bad stuff or doing the stuff that people was accusing them of, that they came out on top and that they still kept their life on the right path, is very helpful, because sometimes you can get discouraged and you be like, all right, I'm about to just do what since they saying that this is what they expect of me, or this is how they look at me, I'm just gonna act that way. But you can't do that. You gotta still keep fighting and just know eventually that it's gonna pan out the way that you want it to.
Honestly, other than, of course, the biblical way, I look at it as everything right now is happening for a reason. So with people, there's being protests held in all 50 states in one day, or just the way the movement is going now, people are finally like actually standing up and not just letting this blow by. Like there's people still protesting. They're still pushing for the Black Lives Matter movement, donating everything that's just going on. They're not just letting this just sit. They're actually doing something about
And before we get to their closing statements, Tim, just want to just ask you guys a question. How aware of you are of local issues that's going on? Are you guys in tune with local issues that are going on, or are you guys more inclined to follow the national movement or the national things that get national attention? Do you seek to be informed on local issues?
I see local issues all the time, and it's sad because like we'll stand up for the people that made it to the news, the people that are getting seen because of video, but in our own town we won't do a march for the people that are being shot and killed here.
Anybody else?
I feel like we bash the police about what's going on, about what they do, and about how racial they are, but they only do it, or Caucasian people only do it because they see that we bash ourselves, or that we're all African Americans and we bash ourselves, or we kill each other. So they just feel like in the time of being or the time of state that it's okay, because they be like, well, if they're doing it to themselves, they won't have a problem if somebody else do it. And then when it finally happens and they do it, we make a big deal about it. But when we do it to each other, it's just like it's another day.
Well, I wanna interject, and I want to interject with a little wisdom. I'm 34, and I will tell you at 34, and I'm sure my father would tell you at 57, and my grandfather would tell you at 78, we could stop doing anything in our community tomorrow, and they would still do the same thing. And I don't want you to ever take responsibility for the actions of someone else, specifically actions that are encouraged or housed in racism, because your Blackness is not an excuse for someone to be racist towards you. Our Blackness in between each other is not an excuse for someone to be racist towards us. And so I don't say that to say that you're wrong, because I want you to be empowered in your voice, but I do want to put something in you that you can take with you from this conversation, that I don't care how Black you are. I don't care if me and Chris are together all the time. I don't care what kind of disagreement we have. It is not an excuse for someone to be like, see, they don't even like each other. I can do what I want to them. That ain't never going to be the case. And that never should be the case. And as you guys grow into your Blackness, and as you guys grow into being empowered, I want you to know that. Like, I don't care what kind of disagreement you have with a Black person. It does not give space for someone to be racist towards you, or to use your race as an excuse to belittle you or to put you beneath them.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like, they use the fact that we argue with each other or what we do to each other. They try to use that as justice or as a way for them to do what they do. But just because we argue with each other, because we can argue right now, we could fight, but 2 hours from now, we could be with each other, hanging out, kicking it, being best of friends. Right after that, it's just we had to get through the argument. But they feel like, oh, well, since they doing it, why can't I do it? But we do it at a different level. We do it as we're getting over our problems, and then we're going to be right back cool. They feel like since we doing it, that they can do it at the same way. But just because our differences does not give y'all the right of way to do what y'all do to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To piggyback off of that, another thing, like with the whole when we kill or we harm each other, we're not harming each other because of the skin of our color, or the color of our skin. There's actually something that happened. Like there's not Black people killing Black people for no reason, because that doesn't make sense at all. So that really doesn't give a reason for the police or anybody outside of a race, mostly white people, to kill us just because of our Blackness, because we're not even doing that to each other.
You're muted, Chris. You're muted.
I'm sorry. And you hit the nail right on the head, Philip. And that's what I was going to say to you, Akeem. At least, even though it may not make sense to those on the outside, the senseless murders that happen in the Black community, at least it started from a beef, right? It started from a beef. It had some type of reason behind it, much rather than the police officer, his job is to protect and serve. His job is to make sure the arrests make it to the police officer, the police station, to get processed and things of that nature. So when we die at the hands of the police officer, when they don't do their job and there was never a beef, never a resist, never an argument, that's an issue. So, you know, for me, that's where the problem lies in our Justice Department, because also when black people kill black people go to jail for killing black people. So our issue right now is when cops are killing, we don't have a high success rate of cops going to jail for killing our black people. So that's the issue. Toria. Did you? Oh, okay. Unmuted. Yeah. Olivia, you can go then. Toria, figure it out.
Yeah, that's fine. So kind of going off what you said, I saw a statistic, and I think it was like 1 in 13 white men, you know, will go to prison. And then for black men, it was 1 in 3. So, you know, black men make up most of the prison population. And it's unfortunate that, you know, a lot of black men are in there for, you know, small petty crimes, and they're serving like these long sentences, you know, as opposed to, you know, a white officer, you know, they're not going to get as much time as, you know, a black man might get. So I think, you know, just knowing that, it just gives me something to think about, and, you know, it's not okay.
Yeah, one thing like a lot of people bring up when we're talking about police brutality, they'll say, oh, but what about black on black crime? We need to fix, like if you're gonna talk about police brutality, we could talk about police brutality, but as a counter, don't say anything about black on black crime, because that has nothing to do with what like white cops are doing to us. And kind of like I think that we need to start locally. Like I know there was just a legislation passed where like if you get pulled over, a cop has to like give you a card, and it has like their badge number and like who you can call if that encounter doesn't go well or anything. So I think like that's something that we like politicians and everybody who helped with the legislation did good with something locally, but I feel like that's a law that can be implemented nationally. That'll really help out the black community.
I have a quick question, and it's something that I've been reflecting on since you guys have been talking. You guys have talked a lot about your pastors and churches. Phil even mentioned the Bible. What do you think, and this might be one of the last questions, what do you think is the role of the Black church in today's movement? Have you seen activity from, you know, I know we saw the march that the pastors put on a couple weeks ago, but, you know, have you seen churches being active? Do you feel like churches should be active? You know, and I reflect on that because in the civil rights movement that happened in the 60s, it was the churches who kind of led the charge. Do you feel like that's still the same? Do you feel like you'd like to see more from your perspective?
Honestly, you can go ahead, Akeem.
You can go.
We'll go, Phil.
Honestly, I feel like we don't see it as much now as we used to back at like it was at that time. But I would actually love to see it more. Like my pastor, Lord bless his soul, when he was here, and there were things going on, he made sure like he was speaking out on it. We had events and everything. So the Black church definitely has a role in it, and I would like to see that more.
Like he said, having a role, not even just on the racial part, just in everything in general. I feel like on Saturdays or Sundays, like different pastors should meet up into where we can, Black men, if they feel like they need, or if they feel like they want to talk about something, not even if it's just about racial, just about life, they should meet up. They should be able to have somewhere to go to talk to a pastor or to talk to any Black African Americans so they can know how to help themselves in a predicament if that predicament was to ever come about or to rise up.
I feel like you learn a lot in church, and I feel like the churches should be more involved because, like Akeem was saying, for like Black men and to talk to their pastors, I feel like that will play a role because they have someone to listen to them and someone who can understand what they're going through. And yeah, I feel like the churches should be more involved.
I feel the churches should be more involved, and I feel like if we get more young people in our churches, that they will feel like, okay, we got a chance, and once we get older, we can pass it to them, and they got it, and they can take care of it, and they'll keep it going. But until we get more young people in the church, it's not much they can do because they're older.
Absolutely. Tim, we can do final remarks, but while we're on Facebook, I just want to I'm gonna put my Cash App down, y'all, and I want them to be able to all you are listening and viewing, please just pour into them. Put my Cash App down. I will divide the money between these panelists, not me and Tim, but if you please sow a seed to them, I promise you they'll get it. So I'm going to put my Cash App in the comment section, but just please sow a seed to them so that, you let them know, give them a little token of appreciation for doing this. They wasn't forced to do this. They didn't have to do it. It wasn't any community service hours or anything that they needed to get. These young folks were willing to have this conversation, and I believe they were really transparent and open about their discussion. So just pour into their heart a little bit as I put my Cash App down. Tim.
And in line with that, I would like to pledge $250 to each of you for your books when you guys go to school. So I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you. 4 of you are going to college this semester, so you kind of need to get with me over the next couple months so we can take care of you. And the other 2 who are seniors, I don't want you to forget this conversation. And so, yes, I'm interested in giving $250 to each of you for your books. I want you to further your education. If you decide you want to go into a trade, I want to support that as well. I am extremely encouraged by this conversation. As a teacher, I get to see it a little more firsthand, but hearing it in such an intimate setting is wildly encouraging. But if you have anything else you wanted to add, anything else you wanted to impart from a 16, 17, 18-year-old conversation, or perspective, please do so. We got about 3 to 5 minutes, and I want you to have the floor.
I just want to say, since we were kind of talking about like the Black community and the Black church, I liked like how we had said like we need more youth in the church, but I also think that we should include and not forget Black Muslims, Black Jews, and Black Catholics, because they experience the same thing. So I feel like as a community we all need to come together, and even in their mosques and other churches like that, they can be leaders and step up, and also team up with the Black church and other young leaders in the Black church, and this can be like a worldwide movement.
And just to piggyback off what Cassidy was saying, honestly, there might be like within the Black church, there could even be disagreement or us not being heard because there's such a age gap. You have mothers and elders that are 60, 70 years older, and we didn't live in the time that they live in, and vice versa. So when we tell them, or we're trying to, inform them of what's going on, they might not have social media. So they don't go on Facebook, they don't go on Twitter and see that what we still have to deal with, even just on social media. So that gap right there is just enough. But if we can get more young people into the church and we can form together as one, especially in Black churches, that and we can try to finally go to those elders and let them know and show them like this is what's going on while we're living in our
time. I would say like kind of like how Phil was saying, like since there is a big age gap and like our generation kind of did things differently, I would say that we need elders and people to just like listen to us and how we're doing things, because I feel like our generation is very different. We're kind of like tired of the peaceful protest. We're like demanding change and justice. So I feel like just kind of like listen to us and our story and what we're going through, and maybe some things that you experienced when you were, in your movement, that could just help us out a little bit.
Latoria or Olivia?
I agree with, everything they're saying. Even outside of the church, you still see that age gap. Older, white men and women, it's harder to, get that message through to them because, you know, they're just so used to, you know, the images I told you, you know, about Black men and women and, you know, the stereotypes. But I think, you know, just it's so important to protest and demand change, because that's, you know, the only way that we're getting them to actually pay attention and listen to us.
Like the age gaps, that I just feel like older people should be more accepting to what we're saying and how we're coming like differently than them, because we are the generation that's tired of this. I mean, like past generations were tired of it, but we're like demanding that something is changed. So I feel like them being more open to what or how we're going about this will play a big part in like making change.
I think that's everyone.
Yes. So as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have received $625 pledged to you. If you can just say thank you to those who's listening, you know, just for your appreciation. So just for, you know, their token of appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll speak for
I
everyone
really do
listening.
appreciate it.
I will speak for myself, and then Chris will speak for himself again. And inspired and encouraged is how I feel leaving this conversation. You guys were absolutely everything we asked of you before we talked, right? Just about being forthcoming and being transparent and being articulate. But one thing I do want to say as we leave this conversation is I want you guys to really settle into being Black and be okay with being Black and be empowered in being Black. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your Blackness. Your hair, your nails, your haircuts, your tattoos, your African-American vernacular, all of that. Like, take all of that with you. Like, you are empowered, and if you got a problem, you can call Chris, because he willing to get out there and make it happen for you. But I mean that. You can call us. I am going to make myself available to you guys from here on out, because I want you to know that there's never going to be a time where you do not have the opportunity to be Black with a capital B.
Absolutely. And I think and the money is still going up. You had about 760 right now. And listen, it's going to continue to go up, and I'm just going to continue to just keep pouring into you guys. Listen, I think Tim said it right. I'm here for you guys, you know, and I just want you to know that this doesn't have to end right here. You know, we can create something where you guys can have a safe space where you can talk about this, and then we can even provide you with the essentials to be able to further, you know, make your voice be heard a little louder if you want that platform. So I'm definitely here. I will let you know that, like Tim said, remember to stay Black. Because it's always a statement that's always saying that you can't make me do nothing but stay Black and die. But like, so own that, all right, own that part. And what I mean by that is, like, literally I wear dashikis to work, and I hear the comments. I've heard all type of comments, you know, about what I do and what I wear, my African garments. So, but I am comfortable enough to withstand what they have to say. So I want you to be comfortable with withstanding. Now, it just wasn't all white people that said it. It was Black people that try to tear you down as well. So I want you to just be comfortable being Black for whatever way you choose to be it. And you own it, and you really own it, and be proud of it. Man, listen, you guys did everything. I mean, you guys exceeded. I'm going to be honest. Me and Tim was talking yesterday, and we were like, yeah, $100, an hour will be fine, you know. And you guys are literally just took that a whole hour and a half, working on an hour and 15 minutes. You know, Tim was like, well, we were probably only, for these young people, we probably only need about 45 minutes. But you guys are, you know, the conversation is definitely, wow. He definitely sold y'all short, all right? He definitely sold y'all short.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Stop stitching. I ain't a part of the stop stitching group. You know what I'm saying? But listen, I just want to let y'all know, man, we can really continue to have this conversation. But for the sake of those who put this on, we do want to honor them, you know. But, man, another $100 just came in. Listen, you guys are well-deserving, and there's people that's probably still going to continue to pour into you guys. Don't stop being who you are. God bless y'all, man.
And make sure you all stay on this conversation even after the live goes off, because we're going to debrief. Thank you, everybody.